we were listening, it was 2, and they finished runner-up in a third year. And he said, is he the best college baseball coach of all time? I said, no. And he said, who is? I gave him a list of Skip Bertman, Augie Garrido, Ron Dideau, Dedeaux, Pat Casey, Mike Martin, Jim Morris. And he said, you got to put Mike on there. My response to that was Mike would have to coach 10 to 15 more years, average 40 wins a year with 4 more trips to Omaha and at least 1 more title to be on that list. He's got 954 career wins. If he coached 10 more years at an average of 40 wins, that would get him to 1,300 career wins. And if you added 4 more trips to Omaha, that'd be 6 trips to Omaha. And if you gave him 1 more title, that'd give him 2 national titles. And then I would say, yes, you could put him on a list of 5 to 8 of the greatest college baseball coaches of all time. Now, Mike Martin does not have a national championship, but he won over 2,000 games in 40 years at Florida State. Augie won how many? What are you doing?
I just feel like there's a name that's not on your list.
Yeah, Ron Polk, 1,373 wins. Multiple trips to the College
World Series. You can put Mike Martin on there, but not Ron Polk.
He's got 700 more wins than Ron Polk. I mean, I could argue that you could take Mike Martin's name off the list because he didn't have a national championship.
That's what I'm saying. If you're going to put a coach without a national title on there, Ron Polk needs to be mentioned.
Of course, Ron Polk, revolution. I've never, ever, ever slighted Ron Polk of anything.
You just did. You just slighted him right there.
I put a guy on the list who had 700 career wins more than Ron Polk had. And even then put an asterisk beside it.
If somebody says who the top college baseball coaches of all time are, Ron Polk is in the conversation. He's on the first list of names you bring up.
With that group of names?
You put Ron Polk in that group, yes.
Why? Why?
He basically made it a sport. It was nothing before Ron Polk came to Mississippi State. The only people who cared about it were Southern Cal.
His question was greatest of all time.
Oh, my God. All right.
Skip Bertman has 5 national championships. Augie's got 3.
I didn't say he's the number
1.
7.
Pat
I'm not
Casey's
saying he's number
3.
1, but
Jim Morris has got 2
I'm not saying that he's
Miami.
number 1. And Mike Martin has 0, but you put him on the list.
He has 2,000 wins. 2,000. That's an average of 50 wins a year for 40 years.
40 years.
How many seasons compared to Ron Polk? Okay, give me just a second. Polk coached 35 years. So 5 more years. I'll put Ron Polk on that list. It's fine. I'm fine with that.
I can't believe you didn't say Ron Polk. I'm literally in shock.
When I was going greatest of all time, the qualifier I was using was national championships, the one exception being the guy who has won more games than anybody who has ever coached the college game. That was the only exception. But look, if it'll make you happier, I'll put Ron Polk on the list.
It's got nothing to do with making me happy. It's just he belongs on the list.
Okay.
Well, but the list of what? Because the question was greatest coach of all time.
He said, this started with Bo in Indianola, your best friend, asking if Ray Tanner was the best coach of all time. And the answer was clearly, no, he's not.
No.
So in trying to answer a group of guys who would be considered the best of all time, I included the guy who has won more games than anybody who's ever coached at the college level, and then a bunch of guys with multiple national championships. That was the list.
I feel like
if you want me to add Ron Polk to that list, I'm happy to do so. He took what, Georgia Southern, Mississippi State, and Georgia all to the College World Series. How many total trips? How many? 8 times? 23 NCAA tournaments and 8 College World Series trips.
Yeah.
5 SEC championships, 5 SEC tournament championships. Okay.
That is not the resume of the greatest of all time.
Nobody said it was the greatest.
But
the greatest.
That was the question. The question was, who is the greatest of all time? And I gave him a list of names to choose from. I don't think you can say there is a singular person who is the greatest college baseball coach of all time.
I just can't believe Ron Polk didn't make the first cut for you. I cannot. Living in this state, I can't believe that happened. I am really surprised.
Hey, Dad, I think Ron Polk gets credit for revolutionizing college baseball, especially in the SEC. What we have in the SEC today is a direct result of what Ron Polk did. He may have done more for college baseball than anybody who has ever coached the game. But the question is, who's the greatest coach of all time? And so I deferred to guys that had multiple national championships and the guy who won 2,000 games.
I'm just saying.
I think we've got an Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods situation on our hands. Arnold Palmer is not, by any argument, the greatest golfer to ever live. It's Tiger Woods. It's Jack Nicklaus. They won more. But Palmer's got the cachet, at least did, more than those two guys did.
I'm not questioning that Ron Polk was a great college baseball coach. It's not even up for debate. And I just told you, I think he has perhaps done more for college baseball than anybody who has ever coached the game. But if you're saying, hey, Richard, make me a list of the greatest college baseball coaches of all time, he's not in, he's at 10-ish on a top 10 list.
This is how I know I'm right. The only person seems to be agreeing with you on the text line is Bo in Indianola.
Give me a reason why he should be on that list.
I mean, you said close to 1,400 wins, 8 Omaha trips, 6 conference titles between State and Georgia. I mean, the resume is good. It's good enough.
Yes, it's good enough. It's not greatest of all time enough, though.
I'm just saying. The fact that you listed
you can't.
6
your
coaches,
argument can't be, I'm just saying, when we're talking about the best to ever
you listed
do
6 coaches and Ron Polk doesn't get a nod. I find that hard to believe.
What's hard to believe that I'm using national? I mean, Augie Garrido won 5 national titles, except for Mike Martin. He won 700 more games than Ron Polk. 700. Okay. That's a great career if you win 700 as a head baseball coach in college.
How many national titles came out of the ACC in that time frame? When Ron Polk was playing against LSU, in the time frame that Mike Martin coached at Florida State.
How many ACC
Miami wasn't
titles?
In the ACC back then.
I don't know.
So yeah,
and I'm not like dodging your question. Ron Dito is the answer. He won 11 national championships. Now you can say the era.
That's probably correct. You said you were gonna. If you wanted me to pick number 1, sure, he's probably that guy. I'm just surprised that a person from Mississippi, when asked to roll off the greatest college baseball coaches of all time, doesn't throw Ron Polk out there. I'm just surprised by that.
I thought about putting him there.
Put him there.
Let me ask you this. Would it make more sense to you to add Ron Polk to that list of names that I gave you, or to just remove Mike Martin? Which makes more sense?
I'll say this. If I looked at your list and I was like, national title. And when I got to Mike Martin, I was like, no.
But it's
if
not.
If you're going to have a coach in there with no national title, then Ron Polk needs to be in the group. If you want to go if it's got to have a national title to be in the discussion, Ron Polk's not in there. I get it.
So I went Augie, who's got 5, Dito, who's got 11, Pat Casey, who's got 3, Jim Morris has got 2, Bertman's got 5. I may be missing somebody that's got 2 in there that should be on the list. But, man, 2,000 wins just jumped off the page at me as being different.
National titles, 17 college
Well, by your
World Series
logic, Dave Van Horn should be on the list in front of Ron Polk.
Nah.
He's 6 wins behind Ron Polk, and he's been to more College World Series.
Let's just use our brains here for a minute. Let's just use our brains. We're not even talking about numbers. But you got to do that also. I mean, are we gonna sit here and say for 1 second of our lives that any coach had a greater impact on the sport of college baseball? Now, it'd been one thing if he had done all that and been a loser, but he won 1,400 games. He went to 8 College World Series. He won all these conference championships. The resume speaks for itself. I shouldn't have to defend this. It's incredible that I do.
Hey, you're not listening to what I'm saying.
And all you had to do was not put Mike Martin on that list. If you had not put Mike Martin, we wouldn't be having this discussion. I don't know what we would have talked about in the last segment, but when you put a coach that doesn't have a national title in there, and I agree with what somebody said on the text line, the last 10 years of Mike Martin's career, he was the head coach, and I use the quotes there. He wasn't doing anything, just sitting in the dugout collecting a paycheck. For you can't put a coach that doesn't have a national title on there and not put Ron Polk. You just can't. You can't. I won't allow it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 College World Series appearances and 2,000 career wins. 18!
Great.
How do you argue that that's not one of the greatest of all time?
That's fine. If you want to put him on the list, that's fine. But Ron Polk goes on that list, too. Now, if you want to just say national titles...
He does it with that group.
Disagree. Then why isn't Cliff Gustafson in there? 2 national titles and 17 College World Series appearances.
I told you I probably left somebody off that I didn't realize. So, okay, forgive me for not knowing Cliff Gustafson, who was the guy at Texas from 68
Who was the guy at Wichita State?
Gene Stevenson. You made an argument for Gene Stevenson.
Yeah. Just a bad list.
But I'm not telling you that I think Gene Stevenson is the greatest of all time. And I'm not giving Mike Martin the title of greatest of all time. I don't understand why we can't separate the two things. That I can say to you, I believe Ron Polk did more for college baseball, not Mississippi State baseball, college baseball, than anybody who has ever coached the game. But that does not automatically make him one of the greatest coaches of all time.
That plus his resume does.
Okay.
We're going to have to agree to disagree because we only got 3 minutes left in the show. But I just disagree.
And that's fine. It's fine for you to disagree. We don't have to agree on everything. We agree a lot. We disagree a fair amount.
Sometimes.
Oh, Hunter in Columbus, if Polk built SEC baseball as you know it today at Ole Miss, he would be on the list. Dick's list. Okay.
It's true story. You'd probably list Johnny Vaught as one of the great college football coaches. No chance.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't. Forgive me. Like, I intended to read a bunch of your messages here, but there are so many, 50 in 5 minutes, that there's no way to. Ooh, somebody said call Coach Polk and ask him for his top 10.
I don't have the flip phone number.
Jason says, my heart says Ron Polk, my brain has questions. There were a lot of people that said that was great radio. There's some people that said I hurt your feelings.
It was
Somebody
good.
said, I'm a state grad. I agree with Richard. Polk did more for college baseball than he did for Mississippi State baseball. It's from Eddie in Grenada. And there were a lot of people that thought I was completely stupid.
Yeah.
There were several people that pointed out who on that list took 3 different schools to Omaha. It's a great point. You didn't like it when I said your logic says that Dave Van Horn should also be on the list.
Well, I don't agree with that. I mean, just think.
He's 6 wins shy of Ron Polk for his career in 3 fewer seasons with more trips to the College World Series.
Yeah, very forgettable at the end of the day.